and welcome back to another video on the Wrestle Debate. And I can't be the only one who absolutely loved Jon Moxley v Darby Allin this week on AEW Dynamite. And it got me thinking, what are some of the best TV matches ever in WWE or other places? So I've compiled this list, and I hope you enjoy it. Number 10, Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid. Action Zone, October the 30th, 1994. This whirlwind of a match is almost as easy to dislike as it is to get swept in. The Clique was a toxic backstage faction, all four members of which were very good, if not exceptional in their own right, but they were incredibly selective about the talent they were going to give the rub to. It depended entirely on who they perceived as a threat, but since this tag team dynamic represented a chance to prove why they felt themselves worthy of terrorising the locker room, they went and wrestled an absolute classic. The amount of action is ridiculous. Diesel even bumped like a madman for Kid in the early exchanges, highlighted by a vintage opening face shine and a stupidly early face finish. He and Michaels, as per traditional psychology, assumed control with lightning-paced blind tags and devastating double-team manoeuvres. There was just enough of an absorbing story underpinning it all to excuse the amount of crap all four Clique members were compiled to get in. The friction between Michaels and Diesel was explored superbly, with a teased super kick before Michaels kicked out. It's the closest thing you'll ever get to platonic interfacing ideal of wrestling heaven. Number 9, John Cena v Shawn Michaels, April the 23rd, 2007, Raw. This list is an attempt to catalogue the best matches suited to the TV environments, and you would argue none more so than this. Cena didn't feel the need to self-consciously add to his repertoire, delivering moves beyond his capability, like his sloppy and mercilessly abandoned springboard stunner as he did in his latter years. He instead lent his existing moves, the STFs, the AAs. The ensuing action was a structural and pacing masterclass, arguably one of the best in WWE history, in excess of 40 minutes, in which Shawn agonised selling of his cramped lower back. What a damn match, said Jerry Lawler on commentary, and he wasn't wrong. Number 8, Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid. Raw, July the 1st, 1994. This is seen as a template for a modern-day face-v-face match, and rightly so. Bret's use of facial expression was exceptional in the opening exchanges, having been out-chained wrestled by the underdog challenger. He acknowledged that fact by begrudgingly raising his eyebrows in recognition before launching into an assault, not exactly befitting of his status as the company's top face. He redeemed himself by refusing to accept the tainted win following the false finish. Those shifting character dynamics genuinely felt like two men in a fight out there, as opposed to characters occupying their roles. In addition to the teased Owen Hart run-in, lent even more unpredictability. It worked perfectly in the environment of TV, and much more than it would have done in a pay-per-view style match, in my opinion. Number 7, Shawn Michaels versus Marty Jannetty, Raw, July the 19th, 1993. The pace at which this superior squeal to a pay-per-view offering was breathtaking. All hip toss reversals and finishes teases, so much it could have only lasted a few minutes. It didn't, and it didn't. Genetti thought he captured Michaels' then prestigious IC title with loads of false finishes, and it just added for even more excitement. It might not be as prominent on Shawn Michaels' CV, but it should be remembered as a great match, and it definitely elevated Marty Jannetty. Number 6, Triple H v Chris Jericho, Raw, April 17th, 2000. Chris Jericho goaded Triple H into putting his WWF title on the line for a curtain jerker. He had struggled to live up to the buzz between the ropes since his summer 1999 debut. Vince McMahon even shelved plans for him to feature in the main event of WrestleMania 2000. There were none of Jericho's then trademark sloppiness. Everything he struck was unbelievably smooth. And the fact that he countered the Dusty finish was deflating at the time, but it was great booking. Triple H was reset as a despised heel champion, while Jericho had advanced in the eyes of the audience. It added to the angle as much as it did to the match. Number 5, Razor Ramon versus The Kid, May the 17th, 1993. This was meant to be a forgettable, star-enhancing squash match, the likes that are typical in today's era. Razor started the match in customary fashion, tossing his toothpick in Kid's eye, but the brutal intensity of his offense was conspicuously ramped up. He threw Kid across the ring so much that he nearly landed on his neck. He then hurled Kid into the corner and delivered a legit slap to the face so loudly Bobby Heenan accurately compared it to a shotgun. However, when everyone thought he was closing in on the victory, Kid planted him with a moonsault out of nowhere and scored the pin. In retrospect, the whole thing was executed perfection. Razor was such a vicious heel that he lost none of his aura, and even in the face of what was a shocking and unprecedented result, the skinny wimp enhancement talent simply didn't win on television. They got their butts kicked in. 4. The Radicals and DX versus Cactus Jack, Rikishi, The Rock, and Too Cool. This 10-man tag team match was so frenzied and urgent that Rikishi and Too Cool waited less than a second after the opening bell to even the odds against Cactus Jack and the Rocks, who were booked against the newly combined threat of DX and the Radicals. It would have been difficult to keep up, even if it was being presented in split screen. Rock drilled Triple H with a suplex on the ramp within seconds, but before Triple H could even counter, the shot rang out in the background. Jim Ross, at his passionate best, could barely hold himself together at the best of times. The action eventually slowed down enough for a conjunced story to materialise, but the nuclear reaction was apparently enough to move Grandmaster Sexay into a fit of madness when Scotty 2 Hotty brought the house down with a worm. Sexay nudged Rock on the shoulder in approval and then sort of hung off the ropes. He was absolutely having the best time of his life. The entire 10-minute duration is just a perfectly timed highlight reel. 3. Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton, Street Fight, Raw, June the 24th, 2013. The problem with wrestling TV in the PG era is there's too much of it. So much so that even superb matches like Cesaro v John Cena have been lost in a homogenised shuffle. To underscore that, WWE presented another street fight on the very next episode of SmackDown between Sheamus and Sandown, but this was presented when Daniel Bryan was on fire as a babyface and was so stunning to watch. It wasn't just Bryan's match. Orton, sometimes fairly criticised for his methodical and tedious, let's be honest, wrestling, was at its best. An explosive match which extracted drama from everywhere. It was a superb match in and of itself, but it also acted as a launching point for Bryan's main event push. Number 2, The Undertaker versus Jeff Hardy ladder match, Raw July the 1st, 2002. Again, if it had taken place on a heavily promoted ahead of a pay-per-view, the uncontrived emotion wouldn't have been the same. The dynamic was intriguing. Jeff Hardy was synonymous with ladder matches, but The Undertaker was The Undertaker, a far more tenured and imposing performer in both storylines and reality. It lived up to the premise almost immediately. Hardy feigned to take The Undertaker's ride at ringside before piling back into the ring to lure the undisputed champion into position for a dropkick. It was only a matter of time before Taker embarked on a protracted stretch of offense, but Hardy showed enough nerve and fire to ensure that fans remained on his side throughout it. Hardy lost, but his performance was so gutsy and credible that the lasting image of Taker raising his hand in a gesture of respect was well earned and unforgettable. Number 1, Doink the Clown versus Marty Jannetty, 2 out of 3 falls, Raw, June the 1st, 1993. Matt Bond's original heel Doink the Clown character was the most underappreciated gimmick potentially ever. Vaunted wrestling psychologist Jake Roberts once stated that those who grasped the concept best started their matches the second they emerged through the curtains. The criminally underrated clown made his entrance, crackling on a unicycle. The opening exchanges saw Doink grounded, Genetti with his similar undervalued submission offense, with subtle blood-curdling omniscient glances to the hard camera before pressing into Jannetty's side by running the ropes in a delirious way. Genetti enraged Doink by beating him at his own game, baffling Doink with a crisscross of his own. This compelled Doink to brutalise Genetti and score the first fall. Genetti was a perfect foil, a relatable audience surrogate to the unsettling other presence, with crowd-popping athletic, which saw him win. Anyway guys, that was it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And are there any other great TV matches that we missed out? Remember to follow me on Twitter, link in the description below, for daily wrestling news. And subscribe to my other channels on screen right now. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace!